I miss you guys. What's up? I heard you guys talking about that atrocious power play.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? It's just been dog shit, Jackie.
Sucks to be you guys having to talk about it every day. That's what I
True.
think.
It's all we talk about.
I mean, what else can you say about it, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
exactly as Rosie said. It's dog shit. It's
Yeah.
awful. And what's so crazy about it is that it makes no sense. You know, you're supposed to be a highly skilled team. You got multiple superstars on one unit. You refuse to try any other alternative, and yet you can't figure out how to get it done. What blows my mind is this very small section of the fan base on the internet that thinks it's a coaching problem. Like this is not new. This has been going on. And to me, if it continues, because I guess there's still some leash left. Like take one of the big boys off the top unit. Like, I'm sorry, you are grown ass men now. You can handle a little bit of tough love and having to earn something back. And honestly, maybe it'll make you have two decent units instead of one that blows and is always out there. I don't know.
And we were talking about that before you came on, like the mentality of these players. You know, we compare them to Nathan McKinnon, which is probably not fair to do. He's one of the top couple players on the planet, and his compete level is through the roof, which coaches talk about all the time. From the outside, not covering these guys every day, do you see what we're talking about with the core group of guys, and maybe just not, pissing people off through a skid like this by not having that chip on their shoulder like a Nathan McKinnon would, and that level of compete, and it's just unacceptability of losing in this fashion? Do you see that from where you sit?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the frustration and the comparisons and people thinking that there's maybe a lack of care or effort. I mean, you're a former player. You know that is more than likely not the case. Like, these guys don't want to suck on the power play. They want to figure it out. But I think that we've seen it long enough to know that something has got to give here. And I don't think that it's coaching. These guys have been star players their entire lives. They could figure out how to run a power play on their own. Like, not to take anything away from the coaching staff, but like, it's not, we're not like solving world peace here. Like, it's a power play. So I just think obviously they care, obviously they're trying, but it's not working. And I do feel like, and this isn't the player's fault, it's the organization's fault. I do feel like there hasn't really been that many instances in the last half decade where one of those guys hasn't gotten exactly what they wanted. Like, I said this on the JD Bunkus podcast yesterday. Nate, give me one time in the last half decade where one of the star players, you can call it a core 3, core 4, core 5, depending who you want to loop in there, has actually had to sacrifice something on the ice. When has it ever happened? And Mitch Marner getting benched against the Ducks for 30 fucking seconds 4 years ago doesn't count. Like, and I'm not saying they deserve it. I'm not even saying that the power play not being good is necessarily any individual's fault. But at some point, you have to find a way to motivate your players, regardless of how much money they're making and how happy you want to make them and how much you want them to want to play there. At some point, the winning has to come before that. And I'm not talking about winning a few games in January. I'm talking about winning the whole thing, doing it all, going all the way. And unless you find a way to get one of these guys, or maybe a couple of these guys, maybe it's a little pissed off, maybe it's a little motivated to prove something. How are you going to do that? Because continuing to say over and over and over and over again, eventually their skill's going to win out. Like, have we not seen that it's not working? Like, it has not worked. You've won 5 playoff games. That's
Jack,
it.
you ever wonder why CM Punk chirps you about the Leafs on a daily basis? This is why. The content is through the roof
annoying.
these days.
He's so annoying. I'm like, and it's so funny because people will get in the comments on Twitter anytime him and I have a hockey conversation publicly. Oh my God, just tell him the Hawks suck. I'm like, yeah, but he's witnessed multiple cups in his life. I haven't seen my team play in a final in my lifetime. They haven't even competed in the final round for a Stanley Cup since I've been alive. So it's hard to argue with him because he always has that. But it's you look back at those teams and they did move guys around. Like, they did shuffle players around when things weren't, when Patrick Kane wasn't going or things weren't working, and they had 2 power play units. So with star players on both. So I don't know how you guys feel about it. And I know that they're still giving these guys a little bit of rope to figure out the power play. But for me, take one of the big guns and put them on the second unit. Maybe someone needs to be pissed off. Maybe someone needs to, like, I can't believe I'm the guy that's being put on the second, get put on the second unit, go make that second unit work, score some goals, and force the coach to be like, well, this unit's going, so you guys are going first, not the top unit. I don't know.
Yeah, and that brings up a question to me. At this point in the season with Craig Berube, I mean, I'm a Craig Berube fan. I like what he's done with the team.
Same.
I think the good hockey they've played is as good as they've played in a long time. Accountability is kind of a big thing that I think they were lacking in the past. That I think he's brought to a level. I think he seems to have held the team accountable as far as systems and how you're going to play. But as far as their attitudes and compete level and lack of effort at times, you think he's finally going to crack and crack the whip and lash out at them in general. And he really doesn't seem to, which is my one critique of Chiefs so far. Is how do you not stomp on these guys a little bit, wake them up, rattle their cage, do exactly what you're saying?
Yeah.
Do you get that mentality, or what's your critique level of Craig Berube at this point in the season?
I agree. I think we all thought, oh, like Mr. Accountability is coming in and it's going to be different. He's a hard ass. Like, he's not going to take any shit. But I do think, like, in his defense, it's a lot easier said than done, especially when you're the new guy that's stepping into a room. And obviously he garners a lot of respect for a multitude of reasons. But I think that there is something to be said for knowing when to do it and when to use those bullets and when to make those moves on the chessboard, if you will. But I do think that we're at that point, right? It's not the start of the season. You've been there half a season. Nobody thinks this team is in jeopardy of missing the playoffs. But when you're seeing the same issues show themselves that have not just been issues in the regular season for the Leafs, but that have quite literally cost them playoff series, you have to do something. Like, this is not year 1 or 2 of Matthews and Marner and these guys. Like, we are now getting to, like, the other side where it's like, oh my gosh, like, this has been going on for a while now. So we need to start to see this come to fruition, and they need to get out of the first round. They need to win a Stanley Cup. So I do think that that's the one area where hopefully we'll start to see some of that if this slide continues. They are really talented, though. So something in me feels like, they're probably going to start winning, and then we'll all just be like, oh, all is well again. But we all know that when the postseason comes, everything gets harder. There's way less room out there. Mitch Marner specifically has struggled with that in the past. I know he's having an amazing year. I hope that he crushes it this year in the postseason. But because we know that the star players, not just Mitch, but he's, kind of at the forefront of that criticism, has trouble producing. So outside of the power play alone, which you're not going to get as many opportunities in the playoffs, you also have to find a way to get scoring from throughout your forward group, all throughout the lineup. And if you're not willing to break up Matthews and Marner and try to figure out a way to kind of distribute that offense throughout, then I still think it's going to be a problem. Because I don't think we're seeing a lot of the depth guys sort of step up to the plate so far. And I don't even think it's their fault. Like, you have multiple quote unquote superstars on your team, and they're all in the top 6. And I understand doing that at certain points. And I understand that was the way Sheldon Keefe really led things when he was here. But again, we have seen that they need more than that. And if you can't get it done under the salary cap with trades and off-season moves because of how much you pay said players, then it obviously has to come from another angle. And that angle, to me, is moving those guys around. Like, I still don't understand why Matthews and Marner have to play together all the time when they are both talented enough to drive their own line. I feel like I'm just saying the same shit.
We're just letting you go.
Oh, trust me. We do a daily Leafs podcast. It's the same content every day. But I think John Klingberg's going to save this team if they sign him. But it is a sick and twisted and perverse Leafs nation. John Tavares goes down. I could see this team winning like 10 of the next 12 games. What are your thoughts on the Tavares injury?
Sorry. What are my thoughts on the Tavares injury? It sucks. Yeah. It sucks. I think, I've liked Tavares this year. He's on the tail end of his career now. I think expectations for him should be a little bit lower than they've been in the past. I talk about sacrifices. He's one guy that did make a huge sacrifice coming into this season. Like, it can't be easy. Rosie, I would love your thoughts on how hard it would be for a guy not just a guy, a superstar in the league. He's wearing a C for an Original Six franchise. He's been an elite player, his whole career. Yes, it's one thing to just be like, okay, I'm giving it up because I know this guy is the next guy and I got to pass the torch. But like, we're talking about a very alpha sport. Like, it's a sport. It's a professional sport. Everyone in there is an alpha male. You guys pride yourselves on where you're at in your career. So have to give up that C, I think, is harder than most people give him credit for, because you go from being the bona fide leader to, oh, I'm giving this up. How do I deal with that? How does that change the way I approach the day to day? How does it change the way I approach things when we're struggling? If I've literally been told in the room and publicly, like, this isn't your team anymore. I think mentally that's probably a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been easy by any stretch. And you talk about alpha male and whatnot, and ego comes into play, right? You're used to just constantly working towards getting more and more and climbing your status and building your ego, which can be beneficial in competitive sports, obviously. But he had to take a step back there and check his ego. I think you could probably lessen the blow in the fact that you say, listen, it's Austin Matthews after the season he just had. Yeah. It makes sense. I thought they would wait until after this season to do this. They chose not to just to try to spark something. But I really think that he's taken, the mentality of, hey, why don't I look on the positives? I don't have to carry that burden anymore. I don't have that weight on my shoulders. I can be free in this last year of my contract to see what I can make of it. And look what he's done with it. He's taken it and ran with it. Yeah. And I really didn't expect anything less of John Tavares. He's the consummate professional. He just does everything the right way, and he just has such a great head on his shoulders. I wasn't really surprised in any way. But you look at this team and what they have, and the same things over. And by all accounts, they're pretty set up in the crease. Their D looks as good as they have in a long time. What do you see March 7th, where the trade deadline comes? I don't know what's out there necessarily. It's yet to be seen, and Tree Living touched on it this week. But what would you love to see them add?
Oh my, a million things. But I think, like, I knew you guys would probably ask this coming on the show, and I was thinking about it, and I kind of ultimately came to the conclusion, like, does it matter? They don't have the ability to get the type of player that is going to be like an immediate, like, oh my gosh, this sends this team over the edge. They can get complementary pieces, and sometimes those moves end up being the most valuable ones at the deadline. But I ultimately don't really think am I allowed to swear? I keep swearing. And
yes, you can.
Nick, you are.
I don't know if it fucking matters. Like,
Ooh.
You've got goaltending that has been a surprise this season, that has shown up for you, save for some injuries, right? But like, you have a couple goalies that have proven that they can be a legitimate tandem. But if you can't figure out your power play, and the superstar players that you have can't find a way to produce in the playoffs, and oh, by the way, also get your third and fourth liners in the mix involved, feeling like they're a part of it, you're not winning anyways. Like, I just don't believe that the Leafs can make one or two minor tweaks and like that's going to fix everything. These are problems that aren't just about, needing another guy on the back end to solidify the D. It's more than that to me. I'm blanking on the word right now, but like, these are not just like quick fix problems. These are problems that I think incorporate the entire team, the way they play, the way they approach things, and the way they handle adversity. So I mean, you can always use another defenseman. They need depth scoring, but like, who are they getting? Who can they
Jackie,
get?
you're being way too defeatist today. I won't lie.
I'm
Like,
not trying
where's
to
the
be
passion? Where's the pride?
This is the passion. Oh, where's the passion? So much passion, so much pride. But I also like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, this team should be able to win, especially this year. If there's one thing that we know about this season in the East, like, the path is there. There is the ability for this team to go on a very deep run and have a lot of success. But they have to get their heads out of their asses and know that, like, it's not just the sea doesn't just part and you just like walk through. They should have learned that when they faced the Montreal Canadiens and were up 3-1 and blew it. Like it doesn't matter who they face in the first round. It doesn't matter really what they do at the deadline. Like, yes, you would like to shore up some things and give yourself a little bit of insurance in case you have injuries, especially on the back end. But ultimately, I don't think that that's what's going to make or break this team. What's going to make or break this team is the thing that's always going to make or break this team: goaltending and their superstar offense, because that is the philosophy with which this roster was built, was that these 4 or 5 players will get it done. Hasn't happened yet. I hope it does happen. They're certainly capable of making it happen.
A lot of hope.
Yeah. I'm not a defeatist. I think that they can do it. I don't want people to be like, Jackie hates the Leafs. I love the Leafs. I want more than most people for this team to win, okay? Like, I want my father to see another cup win before he goes. So I really, really want this team to do well. But I think that it's going to come down to the guys that they already have. And then hopefully they can get some of the complementary pieces around them to also be a part of it, because it's very clear they can't do it on their own. They need help.
Yeah, and I don't blame you for what you're saying. I don't think it means you're a defeatist or that you're a Leafs hater or anything. You don't get that passionate about something you don't care about. You know, it's
yeah.
It's this market and this team. It does something to you, especially with their history, where you want it so goddamn bad, and when you don't get anything near what you want or feel like you deserve as a fan over and over and over again, you can go to that place very easily, and people always do, and the market takes heat for that, fine. But at the end of the day, there is no one else coming in to save this. It's not possible. You have all the money tied up in these guys. They have no trade clauses. You've already tried to, tinker around with moving things, not happening. So it is up to them. And before you got on, I said your mentality, your killer instinct, you're getting pissed off. How many times do you got to lose to get pissed off about it? Like, these guys don't want to lose. Like you said, of course, they're professional athletes. They don't get to that level by not being competitors. Everything about their life is better when they win. But their response to coming up short is frustrating to people. It really is. Their body language, their facial expressions, their interviews, just their reactions to losing is not indicative of a killer, of an absolute assassin, of a Nathan MacKinnon with a cup in his pocket who only wants another one. People need to see that, or they're going to get ragged on.
And remember Nathan MacKinnon before the Avs won the cup with him? I think a second round they got eliminated, and he was like, I've been here 9 years. We haven't won shit. Like, he was mad. And he wasn't saying, oh, woe is me. Oh, we didn't get the breaks. Oh, whatever. I like the way we played, but like, we got respect. Like, none of that. You didn't hear that from Nathan MacKinnon. You saw someone that was pissed off, didn't like the result. And that's basically all he said in that press conference. He said, I haven't won shit. I'm tired of losing. I don't want to lose anymore. And I'm going to take some ownership over my own self and what I bring and try to fix it. And what happens? They go on, they win a Stanley Cup. Now he's having the year he's having this year, making people debate whether or not maybe he's the best player in the world today, this year in this league. And I think there's a solid case to be made there based on the season that he's having. But it's just, I think you're right, Rosie. I think where the frustration comes from is like, okay, the Leafs have lost like 3 games. Am I mad? No. Am I annoyed? Absolutely. I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed at the way that it's happening and the fact that we're talking about the same things once again. And I think for fans, when Mitch says what he says after a loss, that he liked the way they played, or when people are saying, oh, well, the power play has been bad, but we hit a couple of posts, and like, we're kind of doing this whole, like, we're making excuses all the time. And it feels like the Leafs kind of do that as well. And I honestly am not even sure if I blame the players for that, because ultimately, if you go back and you look at the response from the front office, from Shanny and Dubas when he was here and everything that was happening, it was always, well, I like the way we played and we're going to run it back all or nothing because we believe in this group. And yes, it's important to let your players know that you believe in them and that you think that they can do it. But you can't do that at the expense of making them feel like nothing is ever their fault, or that they are never the ones to blame, because they are the ones playing the game. And sometimes they are to blame. And I think they are to blame for the power play. I don't think that's on anyone except the players. It can't be. You're too good. If you're so good that you want $1,000 million next year, then can you fucking score on the power play, please? Like, you are up a man. It should not be that difficult for Austin Matthews or Mitch Marner or William Nylander to score on the power play. I'm sorry, it's not that difficult. You have an extra person. Create space, make the other team move, get them out of position, shoot the puck. Am I dumb? Or is that what it boils down to for the most part? Like, get the goalie moving side to side, get a player out of position, open up a goddamn lane, and shoot the puck. That's it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think this has been good for you. Like, I expect you to send me a bill
This
for
is
the
your therapy.
session, but I think this has been awesome for you, Jackie. Very therapeutic.
I don't get to talk at length about hockey as much as I used to, so I really try to use my time wisely. But I don't know. I would love for you guys to let me know if you think that I'm crazy or I'm being too dramatic or overreactive, but I do think that there has very much been a lot of these guys have been protected by the organization for a long time, and the media has been blamed for the criticism, and the fans have been blamed for being over dramatic, and it's everyone's fault except for theirs. And I think that has been to the detriment of the growth of some of these players, and realizing that even if you're a top 5 player in points and you're really good and maybe you are worth all the money that you're asking for, it's not just going to come to you. You don't just walk into the playoffs. No one's giving it to you, because the guys on the other side want it just as bad, if not more than you do. So it's not going to be, you're going to have to evolve and grow as players and play a different way and be willing to sacrifice a little bit more than maybe you want to for the greater good. Like, if Matthews and Marner were split up and on separate lines, maybe, I don't know, maybe all of a sudden you've got, a Bobby McMahon or a Max Domi just feeling absolutely motivated because all of a sudden they're playing with a star player and they don't want it to go away. They want it to keep happening because they know individually it's going to be good for them, because their point production's probably going to go up, which means maybe they get an extra year on their next deal or a little bit more money, because they're not guaranteed the longevity that some of these superstars are. And I think that those motivational pinpoints throughout your lineup, they fucking matter. And when those guys feel like they have an opportunity to become a little bit more valuable, it helps everybody. It helps the entire lineup be a little bit more productive and work a little bit harder, and maybe even sacrifice a little bit of their own game to try to get Mitch Marner the puck or Austin Matthews open or whatever it is. I don't know. I could go on and on and on.
Confirm Jackie Redmond has the passion. Okay. You are preaching to the choir first and foremost, Jackie. I think down the road, there's going to be a Netflix special. We saw a Prime special on the Leafs power play. There's going to be a Netflix special. I just want to end the conversation asking you about Netflix.
By
That was
the way, I do
incredible.
think the Leafs are a good team this year. In case anybody watching
Really?
is like, Jackie thinks the Leafs suck. I don't.
I think you said it perfectly.
Nailed it,
You
yeah.
gave them the accolades they deserve, but the accountability isn't quite there. They have been sheltered. They have been babied. Maybe you need to do more. You've come up short every goddamn time, which is why you get criticized. Maybe you need to find another gear. Maybe you have to be willing to do something you weren't willing to do before. I don't think that's outrageous. I think everyone with the head on their shoulders in this market is thinking the same thing. And I'm glad you said it, because it confirms what we always say, but we got to tiptoe around it, or we're going to be called, all these names and haters and get piled
really
on as
care.
well. But it is what it fucking is. They are what they are, and we want to see what we want to see. Simple as that.
And it's because we know they're capable of better. That's the thing. Like, they're a good team right now. They're gonna fight for first place in their division, and like, that's all great. But to me, like, this is a team that we should have seen dominate a season by now. We haven't seen that yet.
We have not. People in the chat are loving you as a guest here. I just, again, wanted to get your thoughts on Netflix and WWE. You're doing some great stuff there.
Oh my gosh. I'll tell you what, the season debut of Monday Night Raw, or the debut on Netflix of Monday Night Raw, felt like WrestleMania. Like, it felt like I was at WrestleMania, and everything feels larger than life. It's amazing. It's an amazing energy to be around. I feel so inspired and motivated. And we're doing things a lot differently there. So for someone in my role, it's really been awesome to be a part of that. And, even like, it's so collaborative. I don't know what it was like there 10 years ago. I wasn't there, but right now it's so collaborative. I have, the bosses on the broadcast side asking me for input about like what we would do in sports. Like, if CM Punk wins this main event, like, what would you do if it was an actual professional game? And I'm like, well, we would interview them right away on the broadcast. That's what we would do, you know? And we're starting to do a lot more of that, whether it's in the ring, walking up the ramp, like immediately sort of like on the playing field, if you will. So all that stuff has been really fun. And the numbers have been good. And I'm doing commercials now for the international audience, which has been really cool. Especially just being on in Canada and sort of getting that, because with TNT, I don't get that, right? For the most part, like we air mostly in the States. So some people have forgotten that I even cover hockey, which is hilarious. But yeah, it's been so much fun. And there's quite a hockey contingent there that goes beyond CM Punk. That's been really fun to be a part of as well. So
yeah, and I think you've brought some legitimacy in that position, because you act exactly the same way you do, like doing a hockey broadcast, where a lot of the, you know, everybody's playing a role, right? It's all a role and a part of a show, but you do such a great job of juggling that with your interviews, I find.
Well, listen, we're going to be in Toronto in March, I believe.
Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, if you guys are able to get to a show, like my husband does not watch wrestling. He's never even, I don't believe him when he says this, but he says he's never even had a wrestling phase. I'm like, oh, come on.
That's a lie.
You didn't have 1 year where you were like, wow, Stone Cold's fucking awesome. Like, come on, you're such a liar. But even he went to a show and I wasn't sure like what his reaction would be afterwards. And he loved it. He thought it was so much fun. So I think if anyone ever has a chance to go, they should check it out. It's such a great show. You know, it's a spectacle. It's like a traveling circus in the best way. And actually, I'm gonna state this very specifically, because I have not been able to confirm if it's true. But I heard this week from a very reliable source that Austin Matthews is a wrestling fan. So I'm trying to get to the bottom of that. I don't know if it's true, but I heard that from 2 pretty reliable people this week. So Austin's gonna hate to see me coming. I got a Leafs-Avs game in Toronto in March, maybe. And if I see him, I will be asking him if he's a wrestling fan.
Track him
We
down.
need Pappy 316 t-shirts right away. Jackie, we love you. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much for your passion today.
You guys are the best. Thanks for having me on.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.